Okay, interesting, guys. So you have the Knight of Pentacles. There we go. There's Virgo. Underneath that, the Three of Pentacles. So this is still making progress. Nothing being stopped. Nothing being halted. This is good. Good stuff. Good stuff. But the thing is that somebody is very cautious about the movements that they make. Not necessarily too, too risque or too frivolous with it, like not like the Knight of Wands. I feel like at one period of time you guys were definitely in a very open and fun kind of attitude. And what I mean that is like, I feel like with the Knight of Wands there was more of a carefree attitude. Now I feel like there's a starting of development of seriousness here, especially if it has a lot to do with someone's future, especially when it has something to do with plans regarding um, moving forward with someone. Okay, so the Knight, excuse me, not the Knight of Cups. We're gonna get to that in a moment because you have two knights here in here. Technically, if you want to count the Six of Wands here, three, but you have two because this is ultimately talking about making progress. The thing that's kind of throwing me though is the fact that these two are the cards that you get. Now, it would make more sense if you had the Knight of Swords, Knight of Wands, or you had the Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Cups. Those are the two fastest and the two slowest. Okay, but you have both the most. You have one of the most slow. Well, I feel like the most slowest knight, and then you have the second to fastest knight here. And I know everybody says that the Knight of Wands is the fastest knight, but I feel like the Knight of Swords is the fastest because he's going and charging in fast, head forward, moving in, quick with his antics. Think about it: when you're arguing with a Gemini, the last thing you get is a time to say something. Except unless you're Aquarius, right? Which y'all are the most fastest when it comes to being quick-witted. Or matter of fact, I feel like when it comes, you could be that way, but I feel like y'all are more patient with it. You like to hear what people are saying so they can kind of spiral themselves, get themselves caught in a loop, or get themselves caught by saying too much, and then you're like, okay, so you just did X, Y, and Z. Yeah, you contradicted yourself there. You don't make sense. You're not calculated, but you slick like that. You like to wait to see people to get them into a mindset where they think they're making sense by not saying anything, and and then they say something, and you're just like, okay, you fucking walked yourself in a hole now. Good job. That kind of whole thing. So I mean, I wouldn't see y'all as the Knight of Swords, which is why you're all the King of Swords. You can be patient and wait for the person to say the wrong thing, because it takes silence for a person to say the wrong thing, especially if they think they're smart and they talking very fast and they think they know what they're talking about. But anyway, aside from that little Aquarius 101 thing, I don't like this kind of energy here where there's opposing speeds. Like we have slow and then you have fast. I don't like that. But the slowness is in the past here. So you're now kind of slowing up, taking a little bit of, you're taking your time to really look at things a little closely here with the underlying energy being the Knight of Pentacles. And it's because I feel like there was a lot of, experiencing, heart, carefreeness. But you're starting to get, things are starting to get a little too real with the Knight of Pentacles coming up. Things are getting too real. Now, the challenge, or the card that you're reading, thing that you're dealing with, is the Devil card. Now, the Devil coming up like this can be a Capricorn, or this could indicate that you guys are feeling very trapped in your situation. Kind of really stuck. A pattern of this certain pattern of behavior that may be keeping you guys this way. Or maybe there's a connection in which you guys are tied to someone, or you guys feel like you guys can't break free from a certain connection. You can't do anything. Right? But the Devil to me also indicates that there is some sort of relationship in which you guys are having a hard time finding your own individual power, your own individual strength. Okay, because the Devil is all about disillusionment, right? Very similar to the moon. I always associated very similar to the moon in regard to the illusions, right? The things that are real and what aren't real. The fact of the matter is that you're not actually trapped with the Devil. You're actually just you have a chain around your neck, right? It's kind of like, if you're under 21, you have to wear like a wristband before you go into a club. Now, I don't know if this exactly exists, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say. You wear that, and you could leave at any time and take that thing off. But you have to remember that thing is on because, it's a reminder to a reminder for you to remember that, hey, I'm not actually going to be here for the rest of my life. You know, this is to distinguish to everyone and to myself that where I am is a place to have fun and to enjoy. And I feel like it can get carried away when you kind of, when your needs are met, or when you feel like those needs are met, and you're kind of going back for more and more and more, and you get addicted to that area. You get addicted to that space where you have a lot more fun, where you feel like your needs are getting met there. Okay? And I feel like with the with the devil coming up, that's that illusion, right? That illusion that you don't have a personality, that you don't have an individuality. Like if you don't, that you can't get out of a situation, but you can. It's just maybe harder to find a way out because you forgot the way you got in. Now, what's crossing you is the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, the Seven of Pentacles is talking I always say like that kind of on the fence card. It's very similar to the Knight of Pentacles. Not really committed, but not committed, you know what I mean? Now, typically how the Seven of Pentacles is looked at is that it's being seen as somebody that sees the progress of their work, and they're looking at how much more they need to put in before they get to where they really want to be, right? They're recognizing the progress and they're taking notes, right? For some people, especially how I read it, it can to me indicate that this person's frustrated and they're really kind of looking at how much they need to go forward before they can get to where they want to be, because they're tired of it. But some of you guys, and because the devil's, because it's crossing the devil, I would highly agree with that kind of frustration. You're stuck in a loop, and it feels like you're kind of stuck in a certain loop, and you have no idea what you need to do to get out of it. All right, like I said, you kind of got in, stayed a little too long, but then all of a sudden, it just kind of like, you can't get out of it. And I don't think you guys stay out of it too long. You guys are good at, coming up with solutions and things like that. But it may feel like you kind of are losing yourself in this, But the thing is, it's like with the Seven of Pentacles, that kind of whole situation where there's a lot to kind of look over and figure out what needs to be done. That's also playing a factor too, because I feel like there's some sort of effort in breaking the chain. It's because I feel like maybe the chain got, the chain's a little stuck or something. But the chain is always easy to come off. It slips right over your head, right? Because that's what I'm showing you guys here with the devil. You're never truly ever trapped. But the fact of the matter is that you're still looking at what needs to be done, right? So the challenge here is breaking free from this entrapment. And, the obstacle is looking at what needs to be done versus, taking the steps and focusing on what needs to be done altogether. Some of you guys, you may be looking back at how far you've come in situations, but still feel trapped. And you're like, what do I need to do to get the hell out of here? Because I've been busting my ass. Now, in the past, you had a lot more of a carefree, free kind of energy period, right? You definitely were out there, not bound to anything, not bound to anyone. I know I wouldn't typically read the Knight of Wands for y'all, but I do feel like this is you guys. You had a little bit more freedom. You didn't feel free. And I feel like for some of you guys as well, this could also indicate someone else, someone that you feel is unreliable in your life now, because this is looking back at the past. This is someone that you felt great passion for, perhaps. It was great fun and great enjoyment and got you really well invested in the beginning, but now it's like, it's not getting me anything. It's not, this is boring. And this person's unreliable. You can't trust. Not really. Like, you can trust that they're authentic and true, but the thing is that the Knight of Wands is like, you can't trust that they're going to stay the way that they are, and be where they are for long periods of time. But I do feel like at one period of time, you had freedom. You were living in the moment. You were doing things based off of what you wanted to do, being true to that, and that in a sense brought you to a place of not clarity, but I feel like you are proud of where you came from, right? The Seven of Pentacles, like I said, I do read it as frustration, but I do feel like when you look back at all the things that you've overcome, yeah, you're proud of that, but it still don't make you any less frustrated. It's like, okay, I'm really good. I'm really happy with how far I've come along, but I'm still stuck. That's the thing, right? You're still stuck. And the Nine of Wands is coming up in your external energies, and I read the present with the external energies all the time. Is that you got here the Nine of Wands? Like, you're proud, but you still have a guilt. You have a wall up. You're defensive, and it's like you're exhausted. and you tired. Like, even though you come such a great way, you're still tired, you're still exhausted, you know, you're defensive, you know. And that is in itself shows me that, yeah, even though you're good, even though you're proud of all the work that you've done, because it's not about how you feel about everything that you've gone, yeah, that you've gone through and done up until this point. It's about how much you feel like you have to do until after. There's three more cards after this before you get to the Pentacles. We get to the Ten of Pentacles, but the thing is to remember is that these Pentacles do take some time, but it also builds something. You know, this also it builds something of great strength. Okay, of great stability. And I feel like this at this point, right, it gets a little bit frustrating because everything leads back to the King of Pentacles. Maybe you guys, you know, this is you guys being more stable, feeling more solid and more secure in yourself. Like, the King of Pentacles can indicate that this is you, right? Because you're Aquarius and you guys are fixed signs. Now, I do feel like this, you know, the more you appreciate the moment, the more you're invested and involved in the moment, you know, the more and more you become more of, you know, more you know, stable in yourself regarding building finances, regarding, you know, providing people with security, feeling secure in yourself, you know, feeling independent. And I do feel like that this is perhaps, you know, there's just a little bit more work to do before you kind of reach that threshold, I feel. It gets real confusing and it gets real blurry here because, you know, it's you know, you feel trapped and it almost feels like, you know, it almost feels like you're trapped in a certain in a certain path, and you really you can't figure out how to break free from that. You can't figure out, but I feel like it's because you want to complete it, so you recommit yourself. But the thing is like, you don't know how much further you can go personally, emotionally, you know, energetically. You don't know how much further you can go with it. Now, with the goal, aim, ambition, you have the Five of Swords. So the Five of Swords indicates, obviously, right, that empty victory. You know, that feeling of defeat. Now, very opposite to the Six of Wands for me. Even though this is a victory, it's still empty. You may feel like, you know, it wasn't worth all the work that you did. And I feel like right now is to kind of figure out what's worth it. What's worth your energy, what's worth your time, what's worth the victory or the sacrifice, as a matter of fact. Because you do sacrifice something with that Five of Swords. There's something that you end up sacrificing. Now with the Devil, you know, it's about being, you know, like I said, about being trapped. A certain pattern of behavior that makes you feel like you have to, you know, in a certain pattern that, you know, it's kind of an addiction, right? Something that you're used to. And it may be that, you know, this certain pattern and way of doing stuff has definitely gotten you to the end of its rope for you anyway, because you don't really, you know, you know, you're proud of where you came from, you're proud of where you are, you know, you feel good about where you are, but the thing is that you still have your wall up, right? You still have your wall up, and I feel like it has to do with the fact that you know, you're stuck in a gilded cage, or no, excuse me, you know, you're stuck in this either connection with somebody, you're stuck in a certain path, you just feel like you're trapped, you don't feel like you have an identity. It could be that or it could be codependency for some of you guys out here, because you want to take care of the people around you, because the King of Pentacles comes up in the future. But the Five of Swords is talking about making a sacrifice, either being selfish or compromising. It talks about figuring out, or, you know, hashing out that doubt, whether it's worth it or not to pursue, to continue to move forward. And the advice for this is really talking about, you know, just being careful, you know, focusing on what you're doing and paying attention to your patterns, and honestly being sure that if, you know, that whatever you're fighting so hard for, that it's worth it. I know the Seven of Pentacles is like, is it worth the effort? And I think that's the thing, right? Is it worth sticking to the certain way of doing stuff? The Devil doesn't have to be a relationship. For some of you guys, it could just be a straight up addiction to something. Or it could be just, you know, it could be just feeling trapped in your environment, like you don't have a lot of power, you don't have a lot of say, you feel like you don't really have a lot of free will because everything is forcing you to do one thing. And I feel like it's saying it's either be stubborn and do what you want to do, like you have been with the Knight of Wands. Because Knight of Wands, like I said, he does not do anything that he doesn't want to do. He will always do what he wants to do, which what makes him unreliable as far as commitment goes, because he does not commit to anything. He gives himself freedom to do what he wants to do. He gives himself freedom to experience life. And if you want that again, you can do that. But what is keeping you trapped? That's the biggest thing here. What's truly making you feel trapped right now? Right? What are you escaping from? The devil can indicate escape as well. The patterns in which we do things, the actions that we take, the behaviors, the mindsets that we have, it may lead us to a certain temporary escape. What is that for you? If you have this, if this portion of it resonates with you. But if all in all you guys just may feel like you're trapped and you don't have a lot of power, and you don't, and it may feel like you don't have a lot of power until you get to a certain point, right? Until you get to a certain point, maybe when you have your own business, maybe when you have your own family, maybe when you feel like you're in a relationship with somebody that can lead to marriage, or if you are married. Some of you guys, this could be about the marriage in itself. Like, you feel good about where you've been, how much you've grown personally, but as far as the relationship between you and this person is starting to sour because you've changed a great deal. So are you ready to cut ties, or are you going to figure out a way to continue to move forward? To figure out a way to keep, to keep the relationship intact and find different ways to achieve this Knight of Wands energy, to build that passion back. Because you got this opposite energy here where there's no passion. Now, the Magician is in your goal and ambition. Now, the Magician talks about communication. It also indicates, having the tools and everything that you need to execute a certain outcome. And I do feel like with the Magician coming up here is to remember the skill set that you've got, Aquarius. You are made up of all the signs of the zodiac. You are the combination of all the signs. A beautiful blend, different blends, of course. All of you guys will be blended differently. That's why a lot of you guys, if you find out, I don't know how many guys I don't know how many of you guys have Aquarian friends of your own. But that's why you guys are seen as so different and don't really work together too well, because you guys are a different blend of all the signs together. But the point of it is that utilizing your own blend, figuring out your strengths where you're not so strong. Because I don't like to say weaknesses, because your weaknesses are not weaknesses. Those weaknesses are actually things that you may have, that may need a little bit more strengthening, and you can do that on your own. You don't need anybody else. Sometimes the soulmate will come in to help you, sometimes it won't. And sometimes it's devil energy, like I said before. I don't know if I said it, just want to make sure. This devil energy doesn't have to be a relationship at all. It may be feeling trapped in a certain area in your life where you don't feel like you have a lot of power. But the Magician is talking about remembering your power. Knowing your power. You start out with it from the very beginning. That's why this card is number 1. And remembering your skill set, Aquarius. If you are done with something, you have to just allow yourself time to figure it out. The Knight of Pentacles. I feel like there was a discovery period, and now it's about, the problem-solving period. It's very interesting that you have the King of Pentacles in your future. Because I have a feeling that could also indicate you guys feeling really bored. But you guys have let the emotions flow. Feel how you feel. Know how you feel. Pretty much. Know how you feel and allow your emotions to flow through you. Don't keep them bottled up. Don't push them down. Don't reject them the second they arise. If something has got you bothered up, gotten you bothered, it's pissing you off, if this is a sexual tension here with somebody, yeah, let it flow. The last thing you want to do is kind of deny yourself the opportunity to be a human being. Like, I know people say you're aliens, Aquarius, but I'm sorry. The thing that makes you weirder than everybody else, is that you think before you act. That you can disassociate your emotions and think about how you feel. It's the only thing I feel that makes you different. How you think, what you think about, you know? When you watch TV, your mind is going in a different direction than normal people. But the fucking fact of the matter is, you're still a human being. You could be as bizarre, as alien as people want to say you are, but the fact of the matter is, you're still a living, breathing human being on planet Earth with the rest of us weirdo human beings. You know, we're all aliens in our own right, and it's weird that people say that you guys are aliens. I get it, but nobody thinks the same anyway. So what is the point? You're a blend of all of us. So if we all obviously create this, create an alien, then that means that we are all individual aliens, right? You guys are the collective. You guys represent the collective, but you guys also are your own person. You are still a human being. And it's crazy that we're talking about, people in, the collective and all that, because we have the tribe coming up. This talks about people that's in your inner circle, the people that are around you, that have your back. The people that that you've created a tribe with, that you feel like you can trust to build a tribe with. King of Pentacles, is a family man, and he's surrounded by people that he is, he's loyal to, and people that are also loyal to him. Not because he can provide them stability and security and support, or financial, sustenance rather. It's because that he's earned that respect of being that person, of being recognized as someone that is that is worthy of being in their clique, in their group, in their family, in their friendship circle. So if you've got toxic relationships with people, then it may be kind of hard for you to figure out whether or not you can move forward. And that's the thing. Maybe I was saying, going somewhere with that marriage thing. If you're in a relationship with somebody, or if you're in some sort of friendship with someone, and you don't really know how it can move forward, you don't have to cut them off, but you don't have to stay with them either if you just truly don't feel like you have the energy to continue to fight this. But remember that you have people around you that are willing to help you. And expressing your emotions to them may be a good way for you guys to become, to find your own power again. Right? Just leaning on someone. The devil. Maybe it's that the fact of the matter is that you try to do everything by yourself. And the thing is, right, the devil doesn't have to have anyone else included. You may be distancing yourself and keeping a wall up between people and thinking that maybe you have to do it by yourself, but you have a tribe around you that are willing to sacrifice anything for you. You have people around you that are willing to help you at any time, at any place. You just have to be willing to let them do that. Don't be so prideful now, because the Six of Wands can indicate pride, being real prideful. And that may be the addiction. You are just too prideful sometimes. You see, as much as you hate Leos, you have a little Leo in you. Not all y'all hate Leos. Not all you guys do, but that's your opposite sign. So, like I said, y'all, don't be afraid to let your emotions in. Also, if you feel trapped, it's good to talk about it. You know that. But the thing is, there's always a solution, and it's whether or not you're willing or wanting to keep up a certain charade. That's what it looks like to me too. You don't have to pretend that something doesn't exist. You don't have to pretend that something isn't happening. But it also doesn't mean that you have to completely just go with the flow. If you don't like how something's going, it just may take you some time to figure it out, but allow yourself that time too.